I'm excited to announce that our first brand case study is Chloe from Lenovo. She's working in brand advocacy, internal and external, in the PR and comms team. She's also jumped off the highest bungee jump in New Zealand. So I'm sure that her presentation will hit the same heights. Please welcome on stage Chloe.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I did jump off the highest bungee in New Zealand. I'm not sure if it was the highest one in the world anymore. I can't take credit for that. But yes, my name is Chloe and I work at Lenovo, and I look after brand marketing activity and influencer marketing for Europe, Middle East and Africa. So could I please have firstly a show of hands for who has a tattoo of their favourite brand somewhere on their body? Yeah, no one. This guy does. He is a top brand advocate of Lenovo. He's an elite super fan, part of our insiders group, and he attends trade shows with us, and more recently felt compelled to ink our heritage brand on his forearm. Displays of love and loyalty like this are not Lenovo's typical measure of success when we look at influencer marketing, but we are looking to forge these human connections, these real relationships, and work with the right types of people to tell our brand story in their words to their audiences. So we're all familiar really with the power of influencer marketing, which is why we're here. It's no longer, of course, what we tell the consumer it is as a brand, it's what consumers tell each other it is. So marketing, we used to be in total control. Once upon a time, you crafted your brand story and you controlled how it went out. But nowadays, it's not so much like that. The audience want to be part of crafting that story, and that's really where we see opportunity lies. If we work with the right people who align themselves to our brand values, it provides us with a way of getting our message out there to our relevant audiences. So the Lenovo brand, who are we? Another show of hands for those of you who know Lenovo. That's really positive. That's really, really positive, and it's definitely a number that's it increases every time I'd ever ask that question. In 1984, we started here. This was a guard shack where our founders had held their first meetings. And 10 years ago only, we were a totally business, PC-oriented company. We weren't in retail. We didn't sell consumer. And we purchased IBM's PC business in May 2005. So we've evolved a long way to now be the number one in combined PC and tablet sales in the world. Our portfolio covers PCs and smartphones. We acquired Motorola in 2014, tablets, workstations, and a lot of technology profiles. So we're a young company, and we're in this permanent transformation. So what it means to us as a brand, we want to stand out in this sea of sameness where technology products, although they are all different, are ultimately really packaged the same. We want to break the mold with our innovation. Lenovo created the first convertible form factor, the multi-mode yoga PC, and we now sell one in every 2 convertibles in the world. And we also created innovative mods for Motorola phones. We're also now working in the AR and VR space as well to develop those devices. So we see ourselves as different in our brand positioning, and our aspiration is to be a global brand that people really want to talk about. And that's the differentiation for us. We want to stand out, be bold, lively and different. So we want our brand advocacy programs to really be 3 things: customer-centric, disruptive, shareable and co-owned with fans. And that's the key one, really. We want our brand advocacy programs to match our aspirations for the experience. So to talk to brand advocacy programs and the communities we run, just briefly, we have some different communities we look after in Lenovo. Different approaches in different categories, but all ultimately with one goal, and that is to empower our superfans and our advocates. And we see empowerment as really the key to fostering advocacy. So we have a global insiders program I mentioned before by way of our tattooed friend. This is an exclusive community. It gives access all areas to a very small unit of people. They meet our executives. They receive products under NDA. And in return, they create content for us. They defend us in a PR crisis. And they have very strong brand engagement and social activity for us. We also run forums. That's a very good way of leveraging your techie or knowledge or brand advocates to support you and moderate online. They tend to provide technical support and engage customers in that space. We have a broader approach for superfans. I run a community called Lenovo Champions, and that is an online brand advocacy community dedicated to harnessing the power of people who love our brand online and social. And it's great for driving awareness. And we don't have the more rigid parameters of the Insiders program in that case. We're a lot more free with how they want to engage with us, and we find that can be more authentic as well. Influencers, they are a grey area still. They're in a mixed and evolving category for us. It's a challenge to find that sweet spot between an influencer who will make an impact of your brand without being incentivized for money and engage with you only for money, of course. So these members of our communities we try to engage with, and we also take to events. And we host ad-exclusive events or large European tech shows, such as IFA and Mobile World Congress. These events provide us with the perfect opportunity to get our products in the hands of influencers and advocates, and also media. It provides us also with a platform to showcase our latest and greatest and also launch our new products. What we do at these events is go a step further, and we host dedicated programs for influencers and advocates separate to our media programs, because we found that money can buy you a wow booth on a stand in a nice large tech convention centre, but to really create the wow factor and foster real connections, we aim to familiarise our advocates with our brand through different and better experiential activities. What do I mean by experiential activities? That's simply we want to educate them beyond a product demonstration or a brand presentation. We want them to live an experience that brings our products and our brand to life in a meaningful way, and we do that through activities in the heart of Berlin and Barcelona, and with our products to really showcase them in use case scenarios. And that gets them to live the experience, which means that they feel more authentically compelled to tell our brand story and to tell their networks about us. So to bring you really to the key case study now, we usually invite key members of our communities, as I mentioned before. We have also in the past gone for reach, and we've looked at key influencers in different markets, and we've relied as the EMEA team on the PR and local teams in countries to go out and source and identify those guys and invite them to my program in EMEA. However, we do see that then we have this huge spike of engagement around an event, and it tails off immediately afterwards. And now our focus is to look at how we can build momentum, create engagement, and see a long tail of engagement sustained beyond an event. So it's not just a one-off relationship. So we tried a totally new approach. Our brief, as I mentioned, really is to engage and grow our communities of advocates and sustain this engagement. We looked at a campaign called #BarcaLenovo. It's clever, yeah. For the event in Barcelona with MWC. And we want to tell a story about AR and VR. We've got a headset in conjunction with Disney called Star Wars Jedi Challenges, and this was really our focus. So we wanted to find the right influencers in the right space, AR and VR, but travel, photography and lifestyle to really engage and take with us alongside our kind of fan community. We leveraged MWC 2018 as the hook for this whole activity. What we did, we worked with Onalytica to identify these targets. We really drove an interventionist, curated, insight-led process, mapped different AR and VR influences in key markets that we'd selected, and to really deep dug down into understanding what it was they were saying, how they profiled themselves, and how they would be relevant for our brand, and obviously not clearly associated with another brand or a competitor or weren't too media-like. We wanted to go with profiles who would benefit and value from an experience rather than a media program. So micro, nano influencer type level. We shortlisted some targets for outreach, and outreach we managed a lot in-house and also with a partner agency of Onalytica's as well. And that involved email and direct contact on social to directly engage these targets that we'd shortlisted. What we did was ran a challenge called Lenovo. We targeted this new list of profiles plus our superfan community of Lenovo Champions, and we did a little bit of paid on Facebook too to mirror this kind of target audience. Although we had this three kind of pronged approach, it was still a very targeted approach because we wanted to take the right people with us. The campaign itself asked them what they were looking forward to about tech in 2018, show us your love for tech, and they could do this any way they wished on social media, so it was quite a low barrier of entry, quite engaging and appealing. Just through this challenge, we drove over 80,000 organic engagements with this audience, so we were quite pleased overall with the uptake. And from this challenge, we shortlisted and selected 12 advocates from different markets, 8 different countries, and they joined us in MWC for this 3-day program, which, as I said, featured our Star Wars Jedi Challenge experience. We took them around Barcelona, ran a treasure hunt through the city, and also gave them exclusive product demos, and they received a Star Wars Jedi Challenge headset at the end of the activity. And all the while incorporating Motorola as well into our experience, because many of them didn't even realise that we own the Moto phone and the Moto portfolio. This activity drove over 72,000 organic engagements just from this group of 12. And as I mentioned, they were really micro, small, anything between a couple of thousand or up to 20,000 just in one case. But to us, that was not the key measure of success. Really, it was building a community of people, a very close-knit, highly energized group who we've seen this long tail of post-event engagement from. They're owners of our products. They're now product ambassadors. They're converted iPhone users. And they're still writing product reviews, creating blogs, videos, social activity. As an anecdote, I built up a WhatsApp group for them before we went to the event. That WhatsApp group is still pinging me every day. The event ended on the 1st of March. It is on mute on my phone, but it's still incredibly active. The point being, be careful what you wish for. Too much engagement can be a bit freaky. But they're a highly engaged group internally as well as now externally. And this is the group we want to build this ongoing relationship with in our countries. How can we leverage them? The stats briefly, to speak to the quality interaction, as I mentioned, Lenovo, over 80,000 engagements, and the hosted 12, over 72,000 in total for the duration of the event. And one interesting thing is to compare to previous groups that we've taken to these events. So IFA 2017, as I mentioned. The chart on the left simply shows those internally inside the group who engaged with each other on social was a lot lower at IFA than it was at MWC, just to have you understand how we looked at the two-way interactions, inbound and outbound, between these groups on social. And there's actually a 700% uplift from the group in IFA to the group at MWC, which was actually a smaller group of individuals. The interactions between them as well is completely rocketed. So the point is here that the value of engagement and the early engagement and the benefit that they saw in engaging with us around Lenovo and feeling as if they had won and that they'd earned their place to be with us really gave them a sense of fulfillment. They weren't influencers that had been given a golden ticket and invited as they expected to be. They felt valued. The fun slide, just to show simply the peak. The orange line is IFA, and the red lines are MWC. In both cases, we are trying to move away from this one-off spike of engagement and we're trying to build more pre-event and post-event engagement. And in both cases, again, it's the number of mentions around the event and also around our brand, which have significantly increased with the group we took to MWC. So this is how we're looking at evaluating what value looks like against just simply, engagement on social. And an example of the social activity they ran and the kind of value it drove for us. They drove engagement across Twitter mostly. Twitter was the most used channel, and all around the hashtag Lenovo. So you can always check it out if you want to, just to prove I'm talking real. I'm actually know what I'm talking about. And just quickly a little video that looks at their experience in Barcelona. So it's just a little flavour of how we incorporate brand, product, excitement, and something a little bit unusual to give them the different is better Lenovo branded experience. We now got a community of people we can use as community moderators, as subject matter leads and experts. They're all such different kind of skill set, whether they're videographers, bloggers, storytellers, reviewers, writers. They're great at making content, and so these are the people we'll now be working with in local countries. A few conclusions for you I'd like to share. One thing is that obviously a customized and targeted approach is favoured by influencers, we found. To get them to respond to us in the first place, we did really approach them with something that was personal, whether it was on email or social, and more than once. So we followed up, so we didn't look like we were spamming them as a brand, and I think that's still a real challenge for everybody, is how do you not do dear first name, you've won a great experience, it has to stand out. And localizing content as well in your local markets if you have a pan-European or global role. Competitions or activations with low barrier of entry, simple mechanics work, don't be too complicated, and broaden your outreach. Look at a mixture of paid and organic activity. It is worthwhile. Organic is important. Bespoke activations that mean something to your brand also mean something to the influencer, and engaging early has really paid off. So moving forward, what we will be doing is looking at how we sustain this engagement between our key events, and looking at how we can possibly use these guys in focus groups and unboxing videos live, keep the community going even if it is online, because they are all around the world. And we want to ultimately nurture this group and engage more like it in the future. So of course, strong engagement online is a key metric for everybody, and it's something that's important, but it's also the conversations and the interactions we have and the anecdotal moments that help us measure and understand the value. Don't overlook a fan of your brand due to their low social reach. They have offline networks. Their influence you can't see, you can't track, but they should still be your focus. We as a customer-centric company, we want to prioritize those influencers too. And ultimately your customers want to align with your brands. They want to share your values and ethics. So understand their aspirations and their desires to improve whatever you're doing in your business. We're transitioning to be this customer-centric model, so we want to deliver positive customer experience that our advocates put into their own words to their networks. I'll leave you with a quote that simply, for me, summarises how we want to be looking at moving away from simple engagement towards advocacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chloe. I think it's wonderful to see when brands kick off wonderful activity with influencers at an event, and I think your point about how to sustain it going forward is such a critical part. We've got time for a couple of questions. Does anyone have a question? So we've got one from Liz here. We've got a microphone here that Lissy is running over to give you.
Thank you. Hi, I just had a quick question. The influencers that you brought over to Mobile World Congress, did you pay them to be there?
No, we hosted their experience in that their hotels and flights are paid for, and everything was under the Lenovo expense, but we didn't give them a salary or a fee. They were unpaid. Yeah.
Any other questions? One, Joe at the back.
Hey, Chloe.
Hey.
You talked about how they've obviously been blowing up your WhatsApp ever since. Did they all know each other before, or did you help enable a friendship between them as part of that?
We helped enable the friendship. One thing was quite interesting is of course, because their engagement online with hashtag #BarceLenovo, once they'd realised they were going and they'd won, they discovered each other through the hashtag, and they actually created a Twitter list voluntarily and started bringing themselves in. So I kind of did nothing at that point. And starting a WhatsApp group a week before the event as well helped them, start to communicate, and they started sharing photos. They were very, very engaged early on, but no, they didn't know each other. They were kind of brought together through this event, but engaging early was the thing. Usually in the past we've kind of strung a WhatsApp group together or a group email a couple of days before, and they meet as strangers, but this time it felt much more like they were meeting as familiar kind of faces online.
Right. Any other questions? Darren? Since your voice is loud enough, I don't think you need it. Yeah.
Really interesting story, and I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes in the future. In terms of that long tail engagement, what kind of relationships are Lenovo trying to build with the employees of your organisation and the influencers that you're nurturing as we speak?
For the employees, that's actually a program where we're really getting our teeth into now. We're finding that naturally it's a struggle to get people to engage with your brand, and it's really important to us because we see it as something that needs to come from within. We don't have a fixed incentive. We don't have a fixed program at the moment. We have a branded hashtag, We Are Lenovo, and we do a lot of offline activities as well as online. But looking at employee advocacy, really, it's how do we get them to engage on social and share our content meaningfully without looking like vehicles to market, because they simply don't. And how we're looking at working with influencers in the future, it's at a much more local level. So working in EMEA, I like to find, discover, nurture, but also then provide this influencer as an opportunity or package to the country and say, meet with the marketing managers, do collaborations, come on board with media activities where we do product unboxing, really incorporate them in community activities or media activities and events, so that they feel valued. It's hard because if you want reach, you want engagement, you go for top tier media, simply because that's, when you've got limited resources, limited budget, limited time, and you need to prove something. That's the easy route. We're really trying to now focus actually on sustaining real, authentic engagements with more of a larger group of smaller, nano kind of influencers, and that's the kind of learning curve I'm working with the countries on at the moment.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Great. Have you got any other questions? I think, one over there. And then Alison.
First of all, I want to say thanks. It was a good reassurance that what we're doing is actually on the right track. My question to you is, for example, one of the challenges I face on a daily basis. Well, not on a daily basis, but I also working with influencers, and especially when you work for a big tech company. What is your approach to engage with the local teams? As you said, you're trying to, help them use those influencers locally as well. It's something I've been talking a lot about to my local colleagues. But it's quite a challenge, I would say, just because we know how busy marketers could be, and it's just another program to add, especially when it's quite unfamiliar. Could be very challenging. So if you can tell us a little bit about what is your strategy locally, and how do you promote all of your influencer initiative inside the company?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting your marketers and your PR team to work towards the same goal and the same priority is difficult, and advocacy really needs to be at the focus of that. And if you're not all banging the same drum, then it can be a challenge to engage your marketers. I work in the PR and comms team, so I'm fortunate that I work directly with those in countries who are responsible for delivering a positive brand story, increasing sentiment, and we all have the similar target of growing advocacy. That said, it varies. So my recommendation is work with focus countries to start with, work with key countries. We work classically with UK, Italy, Germany, Spain, France, because they're our key focus markets. Because we're a big tech company, we need to combine that with where we're launching product, where our investment is in our marketing funds. So you cannot have a one-size-fits-all and go to countries with a single framework because they vary so much. So I always start with the focus markets, where the product is, where the priorities are, but also where the investment is, the people you can collaborate and work with. If you can get good best practices that you can then deliver across other countries, small or large, or good examples, then you get the buy-in more and more down the line. But it's a very good question, and I don't work with absolutely every country in Europe, Middle East and Africa. I would be a superwoman, I don't. But I work with the key focus markets to start with, but I'm happy as well to talk with you more later about that, how can I help you. Yeah.
One very quick question,
Yeah.
because we've got to move on over there.
Great presentation. Just a quick question. How did you do the filtering down to the 12? What were the key criteria that you used in that selection? And did you research those influencers beyond just the AR, VR topics that you were looking at to make sure they fitted your brand profile?
Yeah, first step was with Onalytica and Domini and the team. We had a target, a brief, to look for influencers talking about AR and VR in a certain space. We looked at the bios on Twitter, specific Twitter activity, but then it was where we could cross-check across other channels. We wanted to check that they weren't media-like, and what I mean by that is that they weren't more involved in any publications, that they didn't write for big publications, that they therefore wouldn't be influenced or have any particular expectation about what they would get from us at an event like this, and also that they weren't affiliated with any other brand, and also that they weren't clearly an analyst or somebody we work with in some other capacity. We had to separate them from those target groups. So that was a lot of legwork. So this approach worked because it was a huge focus for us. I couldn't do it every time. It was manual trawling through profiles to cross-check, and I'll be honest with you, you've got to carve out the time to do that. It was worth it, but the cross-checking happened very manually as step 2, until we found from maybe, I don't know, a group of 400 or 500 to sort of 70 individuals who we then approached. And we delivered a communications package to, all in local language, and we emailed them directly or contacted them through our social channels directly. Hope that helps answer you. And I know I'm completely out of time, so
Great.
I'll step down.
Thank you very much, Chloe. It's wonderful presentation. Great.